Hey, yo, I want to talk about the potential cons of a united Wizards of the Coast, which is a unionization effort from some of the employees behind Magic. And I want to share my thoughts on some of the reasons it may not be a good idea. I'll explain quickly if you're unfamiliar. The people who work on Arena voted, by their words, overwhelmingly to form a union. They then asked members of the public to sign a petition of support, and wrote an open letter to Wizards of the Coast explaining why they're organising. It was then reported that Wizards of the Coast have responded saying that they had received the filing and were reviewing it carefully, in addition to using what many claimed was insincere anti-union corpo speak. Two things of note: the initial open letter asked WotC to voluntarily recognise the union by the 1st of May, which did not seem to happen, and since that time WotC have reportedly hired an alleged anti-union law firm, a company called Fisher Phillips, to handle proceedings. For clarity, the anti-union thing isn't my opinion, by the way. I've never heard of them. That's everything that seems to be known at time of recording, but more may have happened since the work on this video began. I guess let me know in the comments if that's the case. Now today I want to focus on the cons of why this whole union thing may be a bad idea. Because whether you agree or not, people have understandable and legitimate concerns about attempts to unionize, and what kind of knock-on effects that can have, which may negatively impact the workers, but will almost certainly impact the players too. Being realistic, this union affects all of us. But let's also acknowledge some of the arguments in favour of unionising, because being realistic again, without said workers, aspects of the game that we all presumably love just wouldn't be possible. And it's only right that a billion-dollar company should look after its workers. Let's zoom in on this page for a moment. These are all the things listed in the open letter that the members are hoping to achieve by unionising. They make some very good points and imply some worrying things about the working conditions at WotC. But I'm not going to cover these points now because I feel the workers are more than capable of making the argument in favour of unionisation themselves, and today I want to explore the cons. If you're interested in knowing why the workers are pro-union, I suggest you read the letter yourself, which I'll link in the description below. And in the interest of fairness, I'll also link the petition which you may want to consider signing while you're down there, if you feel their cause is one you want to support. But as mentioned, today I want to look at the cons. However, I think it's important to establish a few things about myself first, as I am neither fence-sitting nor unbiased. Now, this video should have come out quite frankly like a month ago, but it didn't for a few factors that I think it's relevant to explain. First, I like to take time to collate my thoughts about a subject matter, because I think if you're being rushed to finish something, you probably won't produce your best work. But in addition, Strixhaven released on the 24th of April, and the Las Vegas MagicCon preview panel was on the 3rd of May. That's only 9 days between the release of a new set and spoilers for the next one. Sorry, next 3. As a player, I'm sure I'm not alone in feeling that this 7 full sets a year, on top of constant spoilers, is just a bit much. It's kind of overwhelming. But as a person whose job is Magic, I can say trying to maintain this pace is exhausting. And I only review the products. I'm not the one making them. Would my workload be easier if my Patreon was successful and I could hire some more help? I don't get to know, because that's not the boat I'm in. But what I can say is if I did bring in more people to do the work, I think we can all agree that they should be compensated fairly for their time, right? Come check out my Patreon. But my point is, I understand and can fully sympathise with where these union workers are coming from. I feel crunched and I don't even have Hasbro breathing down my neck. Also, I've spoken on this channel before about how politically I'm pretty left-leaning. I don't trust a profit-motivated corporation to care about anyone other than their shareholders, and I try to use what small clout I have to advocate for the little guys like me and you. But I want to make clear, I don't think my perspective on the United Wizards of the Coast situation is political, but rather pragmatic. I think if something is broken, you should fix it. I think if something isn't working, you should make a change. And I don't think Magic is working. I think many aspects of this game are broken. Let's talk cons of unionization. Zoom in. I try my best to keep my finger on the pulse when it comes to Magic. It's sort of my job after all. And from some discussions I've seen in my own comments, in addition to other places, I think I've boiled down the main cons that at least I've heard people have in regards to this WotC union situation into 7 overall points. And I want to give my perspective on these cons because, after having engaged with these arguments, I think they're mostly reasonable, and many of which, even given my prior political leanings, I don't disagree with. But they're arguments that have still left me somewhat unconvinced, pragmatically. So, in no particular order: 1. Unions are a bad idea as they paint a target on the backs of their members, meaning the higher-ups know who to punish and fire. I completely agree. There are examples of exactly this thing happening. WotC in particular are a great example, as they're known to work with the Pinkertons, who are often famously linked with union busting. And as mentioned, it's been reported that in response to these union efforts from their workers, WotC have hired the supposed anti-union law firm Fisher Phillips. So yeah, joining a WotC union will paint a target on people's backs. But the fact people may get fired for advocating for better working conditions is exactly the reason that I would want a union if I were in their shoes. In fact, if you remember, WotC have laid off thousands of workers over the last few years alone, seemingly for no justifiable reason at all. So it's not like not having a union has spared anyone from being unjustly fired. Sure, a union does create targets, but WotC can't fire everyone, because if they did, they'd have no one making magic. And if no one is making magic, then WotC aren't making money. So the workers are required. A union means collective bargaining, so if someone gets singled out or unjustly fired, everyone else can threaten to strike or quit, affecting the bottom line. That's something that WotC won't want, which means they'll be less likely to unjustly punish or fire someone in the future. In an ideal world. Obviously, we don't live in an ideal world, so it's not guaranteed that things will play out exactly as I described, but the chances of it playing out that way aren't impossible. So I think pragmatically it's worth trying. The situation at WotC is that people are already being fired on a whim anyway, so there's nothing to lose, meaning this argument just isn't strong enough to convince me against a union. 2. This union doesn't go far enough, and so it won't make any difference anyway. The biggest aspect of this con being that the union is only for the arena workers, not the rest of Magic's developers, and that it only really covers worker conditions and not things that will meaningfully impact the development of Magic as a whole, or face any of the larger issues. And to that I once again say, yeah, spot on, I agree, but I'm of the perspective that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Very rarely in life do I find that you get everything you want from something on your first attempt. Just because this step doesn't achieve every long-term goal, it doesn't mean the step isn't worth taking. And those long-term goals can't be reached unless people take steps like this to get there. So again, I personally don't think this argument sells. 3. Unions are inherently evil, or unions are inherently aligned with the type of politics I believe to be inherently evil. Unions are socialist, unions are Marxist, unions are communist, and so therefore evil. I don't care about any of that, quite frankly. I think unions are made up of people, and I don't believe people are inherently evil. Capable of evil, of course, but not guaranteed to be, which means any organisation made up of people isn't guaranteed to be evil either. So I don't buy this one at all. Absolute power doesn't corrupt absolutely, it's just that only the corrupt tend to seek absolute power. As long as this union has safeguards and remains exactly that, a union of people, probably of varying political beliefs, then I think it should be fine. 4. There are specific examples I can cite when unions didn't work, and so therefore that means this union also won't work. And honestly, I don't buy this one either, because obviously there are examples of unions that do work, and some have done some really great stuff. I don't believe that this WotC union is inherently going to be anything, but I do know we won't know what it will be until it's done. And while yes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, I've personally always found that the fear of failure shouldn't stop you from doing what you truly believe to be right. You're more likely to regret something you didn't do than something you did. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, etc, etc. 5. It's really the players spending money on packs that dictates the direction of Magic, not the developers, so a union for them is meaningless to the larger picture. And I agree very much with the first part, but not the second. I think a rising tide raises all ships. And I do believe better working conditions for employees could result in better products for the customer. Wouldn't it be nice if the developers had more time to playtest cards so that less of them needed to be banned? Wouldn't it be nice if quality assurance had more time to catch printing errors? Video games will frequently have their release dates pushed back because the product isn't ready yet, and often fans will praise that decision because they'd rather have a better game later than a broken game now. So why doesn't Magic do that? If anything, a more cared for, quality higher product could result in higher sales numbers. I know I'd certainly celebrate the game more. So I remain unconvinced by this argument too. 6. Magic WotC Hasbro is bad, and so I don't like the workers, they deserve the worst. Or, unions are bad because it's good when a corporation can treat its workers unfairly. Or, just sort of screaming the words woke and DEI. These are technically 3 separate arguments, but I've grouped them all together here because my reaction is the same. If someone is saying something like this, then I think there's a more fundamental difference between mine and their perspectives than just our take on unions. I like human beings, and I don't really want to see any of them treated unfairly, no matter what. And these arguments all sound to me like they're rooting against people. But like, I'm people, so an argument seemingly based in hatred is probably never going to convince me either. 7. Unions cost a company money, which will directly increase the price of products. Now we're at the meat of it. This is the most convincing con, because this will impact me directly as a player. And I do believe that paying the developers higher wages and implementing the bureaucracy to carry out their wishes will result in price hikes for Magic. And let's be real, have you seen these prices? Magic has already become very expensive. Packs used to contain more cards at half the price, and boxes used to have more packs. Costs have not only gone up, but what you get in exchange for paying those costs has gone down. So yet more price hikes isn't something I want, but is a completely expected result from a union. However, let's see what Hasbro themselves say about WotC's financial situation. From the fourth quarter of 2025, there was an 86% growth in Wizards led by Magic and Monopoly Go. Wow, 86% is huge and has resulted in a net revenue of a number so large I'm not even sure how you say it right. $1,500 million? 1,000 million? Sounds wrong to me, isn't that just a billion? It's not written like a billion though. It's such an unfathomable amount of money that my brain is melting just trying to work it out. Let's look at their full year earnings. Hasbro revenue up 14% driven by exceptional performance in Wizards. Good for them. Nearly $5,000 million. Regardless of how it's written, that is an unspendable amount of money. More than enough to pay their workers fairly, I bet. In fact, this man is CEO of Hasbro, Crispy Cox, real name, and it's been reported that he alone made around $20 million in 2025. I bet this man could pay those workers fairly himself and still have so much money that he wouldn't have even noticed it's left his bank account. So I'm sorry, but no. I will accept that unions may result in higher prices for players when it comes to Magic, but I do not accept that it will be due to the union members being paid fairly. If prices go up, as they have been doing continuously even without the union, it will be because of further corporate greed and the ghouls at Hasbro like Crispy Cox, not the union. And that's the end of the list for most frequent cons that I've encountered. Let me know in the comments if you think I missed any big ones, or disagree with what I said. But honestly, I don't feel like I've disregarded any of these arguments out of hand. I can see the points being made, and I agree that yeah, a union may make things worse in some regards, but a majority of these potential negative outcomes are already happening even without the union anyway. People might get fired, already happening. Quality might decline, already happening. Prices might go up, already happening. So none of the arguments I've seen have convinced me that it's not worth doing anything other than at least attempting to treat the people who make my favourite game fairly. I've praised many of Magic's decisions in the last year, and I felt that overall the game has been moving in the right direction. So I see this union as nothing more than another step down that path. Am I saying it's the ideal path forward or without flaws? No. But again, I think if something is broken, you should fix it. I think if something isn't working, you should make a change. And that will be true of this union too. However, we won't know how successful it could be until WotC officially recognise it. And I hope they do, because I think the potential cons are outweighed by the potential pros. So for now, I truly wish them the best of luck, because I think what they're asking for isn't much, and hopefully could be a stepping stone for bigger and better things. And I hope it encourages the rest of the workers to follow the same path. Less power in the hands of Hasbro, and more power in the hands of the people that actually make my favourite game. Come support me on Patreon, check out their website for updates, go sign their petition. Thank you very much for watching this video, and thank you to everyone that supports me, like 27 Publications, Eggboy the Particle that permeates all existence, Blank Space, Wanpako Jozu, Miss Murder, a random Patreon, and the rest of my patrons whose names are on screen now. I'd also like to thank the sponsor for this video, me and my Patreon page, where you can get your name credited on screen too. Oh, I probably should have made clear, but I've got like no connection to the union or whatever. They haven't reached out to me, I don't know any of them. This entire video is off my own back. Probably should have said that up top, but oh well. I get the feeling I'm going to get the comments accusing me of being like... Well, I was going to say a shill. Are you a shill for a union? I don't know. I was mid-credits, hang on, where was I? Check it out in the link in the description below. Hit the like button, leave a comment, sign that petition. Most importantly, subscribe and share this video with a friend. Hit the notification bell and do all those things the algorithm loves. If you agree or disagree with any of my points, or if you want to see me do a video on another subject, let me know, and I will see you next time.